No,
The word I want to
it's all
start with,
good.
word I want to start with is shame. And I'm just telling you what went through my mind as this thing happened, and this springs from that old religious conditioning, and this may be a place to start our conversation. Um, I am I'm teaching uh, the Omega view. I'm teaching at the church of, pastoring at the church of, trying to bring a message of bringing people out of weaponized religion, out of this contra-Christ idea of private, exclusive, salvific revelation. These are bigger
Mhm.
terms. We don't want to get too fancy. Um, and what happened has happened to me is that that religious root is so deep that anytime I hit an obstacle, the first thing that pops into my mind is this is the obstacle that's coming because of the bad thing that you're doing, because of the heresy, because of the that you're teaching people, against hell. You're teaching people against, that Muslims will be in heaven or that Jews will be in heaven.
Right.
And so here I am launching this conversation and the internet goes down. And I know it's
Right.
just the internet. I know it's not the devil. I know it's not whatever, but I'm not a techie person at all. I've spent hours trying to work this out. And the only thing going through my brain is there it is. This is God trying to stop you. Or more than that, what goes through my brain is there they are, the finger pointing people saying, aha, God
Exactly. How
stop
I
this
told you.
before it gets out. And
Yeah,
I know you understand that feeling. I know you
I do.
understand that on a small level. I know you understand that on the large level. But there are so many people who are stepping into waking up from, wait a minute, the way the God as God was sold to me cannot be the authentic deal, but I'm so afraid. And they're experiencing shame. And they're experiencing the be carefuls, and you're in spiritual dangerous territory, and blah blah blah. Brother, in the most unceremonious way I can talk to and introduce you to, bring us into it, take us into it, whatever's on your heart to share in the grace conversation.
It was first of all, thank you so much for having me, and it's amazing to be on right now. And same thing, the internet goes down, and first thing is, well, and you hear it in your head, and I don't know if it's the conditioning of our the system that we came up in, or if it's the conditioning of the responses that we always get.
Mm,
I don't know which one it is more than the other,
mm.
but yeah, yeah. Is it the enemy fighting us, or is it God shutting it down?
Right, right, right,
We're
right.
we're we're going between these two. Well, make up your mind. Which one is it? It can't be both.
Yeah.
And and then the people, they latch on to one or the other because it has to fit into whatever it is that we've been the selective scriptures that we've cultivated to frame our religious view.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that the shame that you're talking about comes from that. It starts with, um, the heart is deceitfully wicked. Who could know it? You got to die to the flesh daily. You got to, it comes from those things where we're taught not to trust ourselves.
That's good.
And along with that, our humanity is suppressed
Mm,
and
mm,
for the divinity. And we're
mm.
always striving for the spiritual, but at the expense of being human. And
Wow.
that is that's where that shame comes from, I think, and I deal with it too. I still deal with it,
Yeah.
um, and I'm sure you do too.
Yeah. It's shame, and I think it is shaming. You alluded earlier to the inner voice telling us, here you are messing up. You're leading people to hell. You're going, against God, and it's this inner voice. I think of in Deuteronomy, with the in the Hebrew scriptures in those stories where it says the children of Israel hid in their tents, and they kept saying the only reason we're in this trouble is God must hate us. Because the Lord hated us, He is doing this to us. And that, even though it's been about 15 years that I've been thinking something's wrong here with the traditional gospel. Something's wrong here with what we've been taught in weaponized religion. I've been thinking it. I think it was deeper down before that, but I was so loyal. I was a true believer to the handbook. This is what the handbook
Right.
says. And like you say, the handbook says don't think. The handbook says don't trust your thoughts. The handbook says your heart is exceedingly wicked. So even when you see something inhumane, when you see something,
Right.
the treatment of someone or the opinion of someone or the worldview of someone against somebody that you know you could never get away with, you wouldn't treat a dog like that. You're
No, you
supposed to
couldn't.
say, but that's how God does. And so there is that internal voice. But then I think the other part of that is the shaming. So the shame internal and then the shaming external, I think, is that voice of the outside people because I know you saw episode 1 of Grace Conversations, and
Yes.
you saw the chat, you saw what people say, and even when I posted and said, hey, we're going to talk about LGBTQ, maybe the church has been wrong, and the comments were, I guess he's too far gone, God's going to get him. So there's the internal trepidation, like, okay, is God going to get me? Then the shaming from the outside, and I think so many people are saying, I know something's not right with this. I know deep down in my knower this idea of I'm on the right team, and everybody that died in the Middle East in the past 7 days, well, they automatically go to hell because they're not on the right team.
Right.
But we're
Right.
afraid to say it, and we're afraid of our own thoughts, and then we're afraid of how that gets compounded by other people.
Well, yeah, I think you nailed it right there. Fear is the root of all of it.
Yeah.
And it is the ultimate fear is that fear of hell.
Hmm.
And yeah, we're afraid. I was thinking about this the other day. I was driving down the road and there's, a roadkill on the side of the road, and you just drive right by and, oh man, there's another dead animal.
Right.
And I
Right.
think we adopt that same mentality. Oh, there's another dead non-Christian. There's another person going to hell. It's just so,
Boy, that's a good word.
it's so common. It's so common that we just dismiss it as if it's nothing. And I don't know how we get to that point. But from, like you said, from the time I was little, I would think about people who never heard of Jesus,
Yeah.
and well, what happens to them? As a little boy, I remember that doesn't seem fair. You know, they never heard of Jesus, but they're going to go to hell because they didn't accept Jesus in their heart. Man, that grieved me from a little boy. And but
Mm.
we have so much teaching over the course of time that we just accept it as that's the way. God doesn't want it that way, but that's the way it is. It was their choice. But wait,
Right.
how is it their choice if they never heard? They didn't give
Right.
it a chance. Um, so those are it's really it's tough. And it's tough to emerge from. So our journeys are a little bit different in that um, you recognized it from, well, of course you have a lot of interaction with a lot of different people, and so you recognized it from kind of an observatory level. For me it was different because of the circumstances that we went through with our family. And I was so I don't have time to get into the whole thing because but our daughter experienced a really traumatic brain injury when she was 9 months old. And from that time on, she almost died. She was moments from death. And from that time on, my training kicked in: faith, this, prayer, this, fast, that, fast, da, da, da. And, the expectation of complete and total healing was there.
Hmm.
And we saw progress in the first month. She went from, having 3 days to live to, then because her kidneys were shut down. There's a lot of stuff that happened, but one by one, things started recovering, and your faith starts to grow. And then you're like, I can see. I mean, I had it in my head by the time that she leaves this hospital, she'll be walking again because she had just started walking.
Mm.
And there was nobody that could tell me different. I remember, the doctors were like, she's got a very serious injury and da da da. This is not going to be good for her. And I said, I look at it now, and at the time it seemed like I was having faith, but I looked at the doctor and I said, listen, I realize you're an expert in your field, but I'm an expert in mine.
Mm. Mm.
And she's going to be walking by the time she comes out of this hospital. And that was the expectation. But as time goes on and those expectations aren't met, I keep running up against, okay, something's wrong here. Something's wrong. I don't know what it is, but something's wrong. And you were able to see it from a different point of view. You were able to see it in this person, that person, that person, that person. Like, yeah, I see that this person, you know, did something wrong to this person, but I see them both as my children.
Yeah.
And something's wrong here, it doesn't add up. So we both saw the inequality, the inequity, the whatever term that it didn't reconcile. Um, we both saw it, but from a different place.
Mm.
And it caused us to take a step back and say something's not right, and we had to try to figure out what that was. And I didn't figure out what it was, and you figured it out a long time before me. Um, but that's it's hard to come to that point of saying when you're in it to say something's wrong,
Yeah.
and it's not me. I because here's the little feedback loop that I came in, that I found myself in, was it's not me. I can't do anything on my own because I'm just a guy. I'm just Justin. So I can't rely on my own righteousness. But we're taught that we don't rely on ourselves. We rely on Christ for everything.
Yeah.
So if it's Christ and it's still not happening, well then it's not me. Well, you're not doing something wrong. You're doing something wrong. You're not fasting. You're not doing whatever it is. Yeah, but it's not me. I'm not relying on me. I'm relying on Christ. So something's wrong with that, because if we're still in this situation, but I'm relying on Christ, I know that Christ, God's not sitting up there, man, I know I hung the star over here, but I just can't figure this one out.
Right.
It doesn't
Right.
work.
Right.
That doesn't make sense.
Right.
So until you come to that point of it doesn't make sense, something's wrong, you're going to be stuck with the blinders on saying, and they're going to look at you, and they're going to look at me, and they're saying, you're going to go to hell because this is what I understand. And I never had anything come up against me to cause me to rethink what I think I know. That's what I think that everybody runs into.
So this is here's my question, I guess. And I feel like you're right, because I did look at it from not in a superior way, but I was looking at it
No, no.
person to person. And I
Right.
started to look as a pastor and start to connect the dots in people's lives. So right now, I know you don't consider yourself, or I don't want to speak for you, but you would not consider your faith position at all what it was before. That I have said a prayer, said a confession, that puts me on the right team, and people that don't do or say what I say are going to the bad place when they die. I know you're not there anymore, and the difficulties you've encountered. I was saying at the introduction before this thing went crazy. Um, that I say, Justin, I think you're a man of tremendous faith. And I know that when I say that, that has a connotation to it from our background that brings a tinge of, on one hand, a tinge of shame and a tinge of, because I'm supposed to be this person of faith believing for my daughter. And yet everything I'm doing, I'm stuck between hang on and dive in like a bulldog and don't let go because that's faith, or let
That's
go
what
and
we do.
let God do it, that's faith. And over the 18 years now, you've gone every way that you could go, 17 years, and hang on, brother, let go, let go. And each time it's, what are you not doing right? What are you not believing
Right.
right? And so, but I know that while that was going on with you, you were heart and soul and body and money and marriage and every moment of your life in Jesus is Lord. Everybody not on my side is going to the place. So when you're
Right.
out now and people say, well, look at your life, Justin, this is going on or that's going on, or look at your life, Mike, this is going on, that's going on. Have you ever thought that it might be because you've stopped believing in the private salvation that Christians go to hell and the other Christians go to heaven, the other 7 billion people go to hell? And the answer is, yeah, I think about that a lot. I think about what's going on with me, or I think about when I get a pain in my chest, or when I end up last year in the ER, and I think about that. And oh my God, I think about that. Am I leading my wife? I think about that all the time. But what nobody wants to think about is the things people go through while they are fever burning hot for Christianity is the only way. And
Mm-hmm.
so as I
Mm-hmm.
look at your
Mm-hmm.
life, Justin, as I think about it over these past, it's kind of in an A and a B, and I say, well,
Right. Right.
you're out here now, and you're saying, well, I don't believe that anymore, and I don't believe that anymore, and I don't carry this Christian compulsion disorder that I'm trying to shed it. This I got to do, I got to believe, and God's on my side, and the Muslims, they're really in trouble. I don't believe that anymore, and I think you could say, golly, am I destroying my life moment by moment because of my lack of faith? But at some point, you got to look back and say no, because,
Right.
and that's what happened to me as a pastor. I started seeing the most holy, the most devout, the most radical people encountering trouble and sorrow, and I couldn't put the pieces together. And like you said, on some level, it can't be true, but admitting it to yourself. I mean, before I told anybody else, before I told my
That's the
wife,
hardest
before I
part.
said, I had I had to say it to myself. I know, and it didn't come out this way. It didn't come out as I no longer believe this. It came out as I don't know, but maybe I'm starting to think I don't know because there's such trepidation. How could you say the
Right.
most blasphemous thing in the world? And so when you were
Yeah, there's nothing
explaining
more blasphemous than what we've said, that no, you don't have to accept Jesus in your heart. There's nothing more blasphemous.
what, yeah, it's, I
There's
mean,
nothing more.
you and I, if we're on the Hell Express, man, I mean, we're on the fast track.
Yeah.
There's nothing more that you can say than you don't need to be born again to
Right.
go to heaven. You don't need to make a confession to go to that other place when you
Right.
die. And to sustain that lie, to sustain that deception, starts with where you started with. You have to suppress so much of your humanity to even believe that. You have to look at the humanity of other
Yes.
people and their tragedy, and you have to ignore that tragedy and look away from it to just keep your eye
Completely.
on that book. And that's
But see,
what I'm
that's what we're
saying.
taught.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Keep your eyes on the cross. Keep your eyes on Jesus. Don't look at the humanity of others. That's what we're taught.
yeah,
That's exactly what we're taught, and that's what we do because we're trained. And it comes back to that fear. It
yeah.
comes back to that fear. And yeah, we're afraid for the other person to go to hell, but not more than me.
Right.
We come up against these scriptures, in the last days, the mother will be against son and father against daughter and da 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 da. And so when we talk to our family, they're like, listen, Bible said that you're going to fall away, but not me, buddy, not me. I'm going to stay locked in.
Yeah,
And we run into, we're really conditioned. We're conditioned with the faith side, but we're more conditioned by the fear side. And one of the things that, as I was listening to you right now, I think NEM was you convincing yourself
yeah.
in a lot of
Yeah.
ways.
Yeah, my pastor talked to me about that. When I was teaching Nothing Else Matters, he said, Mike, I told him, I said, look, I think I'm seeing something and it's scary to me. And I laid
Yeah.
out what I was seeing. And he said, Mike, he said, you have to preach this. You have to do it. He said, you're not really doing this for now. 100 years from now, this is revelation that's going to need to be out. And he said this. He said, and don't be afraid to still be working it out while you're walking it out. And so nothing else matters. That 3 years, that
Well,
150
you really
episodes.
did that.
Yeah, 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 yeah. That 150 episodes was me speaking to my old self. And I wasn't trying to
Right.
convince my old self. I was having the courage to say out loud the thoughts I had always been afraid to have. I mean, you think of the order of people going to hell. Well, we know, homosexual people, they go first, and then the Muslims go
Right.
second. And maybe before that, it's, people that put the toilet paper upside down, they go first, then the homosexuals, then the Muslims, and the Jews, they're half in, half out, and of course and I'm saying when I announce there will be Muslims in heaven, when I announce the end goal of being saved is not that you would be straight. I mean, when I announce that, and oh man, the community, the rebuke from the community, the oh, you're just fulfilling the prophecy. I can't believe you
Right.
got caught up in the deception, and it's like there's not even room for them to. And I get it because I was there. When you when
Right.
you when you live 35 years, I told him last week, I was not just in the cult of private salvation. I was a cult leader. I from 15 years old dedicated every fiber of my being to this thing, and to come and to realize that I have lived a dead-end life. I have suppressed my humanity and minimized the suffering and humanity of others because of a faith structure that gave me private truth that everybody else had to get from my book, that you couldn't know it elsewhere, and hopefully you were born as close to it as I was. I mean, when that thing crumbled in me, um, I crashed out, as the kids say. And Connie would wake up in the night. She'd say, "Are you okay?" And I was saying, "Listen, what
No,
I'm going to say, yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not okay
yeah,
yet.
yeah, it is going to change everything." She said, "Well, I
Yeah.
can't wait to hear your next revelation." I said, "Connie, this is not that. It's going to change everything." And what I thought was, "Man, it'll catch on and everybody will get it." I didn't realize that that people that had known me from 35 years would just cut me and shake the dust off. You know.
That's what's one of the scary things about our old religious framework is, man, we'll cut you off.
Yeah,
I don't care who you are.
yeah,
I don't care who you are.
yeah,
You're gone,
yeah,
because nothing is more important to us than our understanding of who God is and what He said.
yeah.
And that is really, really scary, because we're taught that unconditional love is the foundation of everything that we're doing. That's what we're
Hmm.
taught. But when it comes right down to it, we don't get to express that to anybody else. We put the condition on that if you don't believe the way we believe, you're out, buddy.
Yeah,
Because I got to consecrate myself. I'm not going to let you bring me down, or my family or whatever. I got to keep that stuff out. Bad company corrupts good character. And if I let you stay in, you're going to corrupt everybody else. And I'm not going to let it happen. I got people that I'm watching over. I can't let you come preach for me anymore. These people are going to go to hell if I let you come preach for me.
good word.
So I'm going to cut you. I'm going to cut you. I don't care who you are.
Yeah,
And I don't care how many times you said it right the last time, and how many people you helped along the way. You can't do it anymore, because
yeah,
it's too important. The stakes are too high. The stakes are too high. And it's and for somebody who is in the arena like you, it has one certain context, and it's very, very difficult to go through. But when somebody is on the outside looking in, is one of the marginalized groups, and comes in, they feel that the moment they walk through the door. They
yes,
don't get to feel that
yes,
unconditional love.
yeah,
They feel it the moment they walk through the door. Say, man, I don't belong here. They're rejecting me just based on who I am, and I can't stay. There's no unconditional love here. It's a lie.
yeah. It
It's a
is a lie.
bold-faced lie.
It is a lie. I wrote down this here when I was thinking about this shame. So the biggest feeling I felt from other people, and I've noticed that not internally, actually internally, I feel joy that I've never felt before. I feel
Exactly
joy now
right.
that I've never experienced before. And I had in my notes, I feel liberty, and I almost said, Justin, I don't think people are always telling me how bad I should feel, and I actually feel joy, and I actually feel liberty. And when you say liberty, they go, "Oh, I bet you do feel liberty. You're casting off the lordship of Jesus. I'm sure it feels great to deny God and to deny the word and to go into. I'm sure that promise of sin is going to be great for a season, but you call it liberty, but we know." And so that thing, and then they get into this. You're in dangerous spiritual territory. Be careful.
Yeah.
God will get them. And here's what I wrote down. I realized that the people who are behind the shame, uh, they have a fear that I no longer have.
Exactly it. That's
And
exactly it.
secondly, they have a fear that I no longer have, and they show me a fake love that I can no longer abide. Because some people don't shame me. Some people say, "Oh, I'm going to pray for your children. I'm going to pray for you. Listen, I love you, brother, and I'm never going to stop loving you." And it's all a lie. They don't mean that. What they mean is, either I'm going to have the stick that God's going to get you and shut your stream down or do something awful to your family, or
Right.
I've got the carrot and I'm just going to love you in hopes of what? In hopes that you change before God gets a hold of you, because he's going to do awful things to you. So there's a fear I no longer have, because my belief in God is rooted in the person of Christ, not the religion built around him. And there's a fake love that we do to all those marginalized communities that we say, "Oh, come on in,
Right.
oh, God bless you." Blah, blah. But it's always love with an agenda, which is love with an
Right.
agenda is not love at all.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
And you're exactly right. We don't have that fear anymore. And for people who are still consumed by the fear, because that's what we were, is we were consumed by
Yeah.
that fear. They can't comprehend it. We truly have the peace now that passes their understanding. They don't understand
Whoo,
it,
whoo.
and they can't comprehend it because they haven't let go of that fear.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I had somebody tell me, "Well, I know you're really going through it right now." I said, "No, I have. I feel better now than I felt in a long, long time. In a long time, I have financial pressures, and those are hard. Those are stressful. But as far as the rest of it goes, I have more peace than you wouldn't understand it. And it really is that peace that passes understanding, and it feels like literally being born again.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
um,
Yeah.
I grew up in the church, so I never got to experience the born again, because it was always this way. So I never got saved. It just always was saved. But when accept these things as, man, I mean, one of the most impactful NEMs was, if you take hell out of the equation, what do you need Jesus for?
That's it.
And I
What
started
do you
thinking,
have left?
yeah, like, well, that's a good question. And hell really was the center of our Christian, is the center of the way that we grew up believing, of the system, of the whatever you want to call it, the institution. But when you take that part out, all you're left with is the love. And I remember,
God.
Brother Pearson, when he left, and it was with, I think it was Universalism, whatever. I had this thought. I was like, well, what is he still preaching in the church for, man? If everybody's going to heaven, what do we need that for? We don't need that anymore. That's kind of dumb. That was my thought. But then on the other side, because I never realized the amount of, and we'll start with the shame and the fear and all the stuff, but the hell that people go through from being inside the religious structure and just in life in general.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we care about humans. We care about other people. How do we navigate these things? Yeah, we need to still have preaching. Yeah, we still need to still have that stuff. It's not about heaven or hell. It's not about that. If you take that part out, now we can focus on the person. And the fear and stuff that you were describing, it's exactly what Paul went through.
Yeah.
He said, man, I thought I had it all. I mean, I was the expert.
Right.
And then I found out that I didn't know anything at all.
Yeah.
And so later on, he says, man, it doesn't matter if you take this day's holy or that day holy, or you want to eat this or you don't want to eat that. Man, I used to believe in that stuff, but I'm not going to make that mistake anymore. I thought I knew, but listen, I only know partially. I don't know it all. So I'm not going to make that mistake again. And anytime we look at something that we read from, if it was Paul or somebody that said it was Paul, and it says this or that, it's black or white thing, that wasn't Paul at all, because he used to be that way.
Right.
And now he's like, I don't think that's right anymore. I'm not going to make that mistake again.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you and I are doing, is we're not going to make that mistake again. I don't know what it is for sure. I know what it isn't, because I know what I was, and I know what I was in, and it's not that. I'm not going to say I know for sure what it is, but I'm going to rely on the love of God.
Yeah.
And that's what we do now.
It is. And I will tell you this too, because when you were talking about, and listen, we're seeing you in the chat, and we're going to get to questions, later. And thank you for your patience with all the tech stuff. And Justin, thank you for just staying on with it, because this is invaluable. And I can see in the chat, people are like, if you're getting something out of it, I see so many of you saying, this is so good. This is so good. So thank you for this. But when you take hell out of it, you're right. And I've had people say that to me. Well, if there's no hell, then what are we even doing? And what I say to that is,
well, what were you doing before?
Yeah, what were you doing
doing
before
in the first place?
Yeah, what were you, and then if you say, well, if you take hell, then I have no reason for it. And so I would say this. If you find that you take hell out of your religious worldview, or maybe there is a hell, I don't know if there's a hell or not, but I will say this. Whoever goes there or doesn't go there, they're not going there or going or not going based on, were they on the right religious team? I know that for a fact. Now, if you want to make an argument, how do you say you know that for a fact, Mike? What do you mean you know that for a fact? It's common sense. It's if you just think about how unjust the idea of privatized, it's not privatized salvation. The Bible's everywhere. No, that's not necessarily true. First of all, the Bible's not everywhere, and it hasn't always been everywhere. Secondly, a lot of us are born with 35 Bibles in the house and 65 churches on their way back and forth to the grocery store. And other people are born where they're told, don't you go over there with those Christian people. They're the ones that put your granddad in the oven in Auschwitz. So we're not all equal in that. It's not what you, well, I guess it just sucks to be born in a Muslim country. Then I guess, God just shows mercy on whatever. And I said, well, could you and I operate that way? Yeah. Could you and I operate that way? Could a courtroom operate? Well, no, we can't operate that way, but God has a much higher understanding of love than we do. And we'll understand how fair it is when we get there. And we may understand how fair it is. I don't know. But all I know is that the way we are as humans is to understand right now, it is fundamentally unjust and unfair, but I digress. So when you said, take the hell out, what do you have? The love, maybe love for the first time. And you've
Right.
heard this. You've heard my analogy of when before I had before I got clipped. My vasectomy. Connie and I, because she couldn't do chemical birth control or hormonal birth control, we just we went the old-fashioned way. They'll cover me. I'm going in. That kind of a thing. And when I had the vasectomy, and they're like, well, it's free range now. Do what you want to do. I was so nervous. Why? Because it had been 10 years since my son had been born, and we hadn't had human to human intercourse in that entire time. And there, the prophylactic, the condom, it brought its own sensations. It's got the lube on it. It's got the little scratchy thing for the chin, and it's got all those things. And you think you're experiencing it, but when I felt the warmth, when I felt the true contact, my brain was not even conditioned to respond to it. It took me kind of, he's like, are you okay? Yeah, I don't know how to, I don't know. It's okay. And I kind of liken it to the story in the book of Acts where Peter, they're like, come on in. We got some ribs and some shrimp on the Barbie. He's like, man, I can't go in there. But he could go in there. He just didn't know he was allowed to go in there.
Right.
It was
Right.
okay. He just didn't know that it was okay. And so when the biggest thing to me was, I realized I had never loved anyone before. I had never loved anyone in my church. I tried to, I wanted to, but I always loved up until I hit the border of the scripture. I never loved a Muslim. I never loved a Jewish man. I was so kind to my Muslim neighbors, but it was always so I can get you. But when the false contra-Christ, Romanized, satanic, whatever this thing is of Jesus, all he wants you to do is believe and you're on the right team and he'll get the bad guys. When that's removed, I'll never forget greeting my neighbor for the first time. I'll never forget hugging somebody in the grocery store for the first time, telling them how you doing today. And I wasn't how you doing today with an agenda or an angle. I was saying how you doing today because here I am, one fellow human to the
It was
other.
pure love.
Pure love. Pure love. And how did that get stolen from us? How did we connect with Christ and ended up being something, or get connected to the doctrine or the belief about Christ and end up being turned into something that seems so far removed from anything that he's about? And so I say, well, there's no hell anymore. And somebody said, well, I'm throwing all my 35 years out. Then I ask, well, did you ever even have anything? Was it all just the book? Was it all hell? Or were you ever touched by love? And that's the thing. I felt like I was touched by this love. It would touch in the middle of the night or walking down the street or whatever I feel, but I felt I couldn't act on it because the handbook said, well, that's not the rules. And man, I was at war with myself and I was at war with everybody else in the world. And everything I was saying is, I love you, but I love God more. And I'm trying to love you before God gets you. And man, until you're out of it, you can't even comprehend it.
So one of the things that, as you were talking, reminded me, and for me, I had kind of an additional layer because my dad was a pastor.
Yeah.
So growing up as a dad and dad as pastor, you don't just feel like you're rejecting whatever you were taught. You feel like you're rejecting dad.
Yeah.
So the story of how my dad got saved was because he grew up not a Christian, and he didn't tell me all the experiences. There's one picture of him with a cigar, and I was like, when I saw it for the first time, and I was like, oh my gosh. But I know one story. The only story I know is that when one time he got drunk and he rolled his car like 5 times, and he got out and he walked away and he never took another drop after that. So I mean, he was heathen, like heathens were. But he went on a blind date with my mom, and at the end of the date, I mean, I really like her. But you want to go grab a beer? And she looked at him and says, "Well, you want Jesus?"
Yeah.
and so they went to. She invited him to church the next day, and he went. And at the end of the service, every head bowed, every eye closed. And if you want to make heaven your home, you don't want to go to hell, raise your hand. And my dad, and not every head was bowed, not every eye was closed, because my mom was kind of peeking like this, and when my dad raised his hand, and but then the next step was, if you want prayer, come down and we'll pray for
yeah.
you. And,
nobody looking around, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But my dad didn't go down. So the pastor came back afterwards and prayed with him and led my dad to the Lord. And from that time on, he was touched by love, by the love of God. And when all you knew was heathen before, and you're touched by the love of God in this setting, you think this setting is what brings the love of God. And so he was all in. He's all in. What else do we know? And so fast forward to me going through all the stuff that we had to go through with my daughter and all those things, the thing. And now all of a sudden I'm like, that's not right. And what I had to come to this point is I'm loyal to the love of God that changed my dad's life, but I'm not loyal to the package that it came in.
That's good.
And
That's good.
that's what I have to rely on, because that's the way I have to explain it, like to my mom. Is that, look, I'm loyal to the love of God that changed dad's life, but I'm not loyal to the package it came in, because the package is flawed. The package is flawed. And I think of myself as a theoretical theologian. I'm not a theologian. I'm a theoretical theologian. What do I know? We don't know anything. We think we know.
Yes.
The people that wrote the book think they knew, but they all had different ideas. They're all theoretical theologians.
Yeah.
And, we don't have a problem with that with physics, theoretical physicists and things like that. But they don't know. They think they know until they find out something different. Now they think we're inside a black hole.
Right.
Our universe is inside a black hole. They don't know.
Yeah.
They don't know. It's all theory. And we're talking about something greater than the universe, greater than a black hole, greater. How are we supposed to know? We don't know. And, how do you know you're going to hell or going to heaven? You don't know. We think we know, but we don't know.
That's good.
We have that inner knowing that says we should be kind to others and do those things, but we don't know to the end. All the different cultures have different ideas of what that means. But I'm loyal to the love of God that changed my dad's life, but I'm not loyal to the packaging that it came in. And when we can take a step back and separate the two, that's when we're on our way. So, and that's what Paul was able to say, man, what I thought it was, it's not that at all.
Yeah.
And I can take a step back from my religious upbringing, my religious framework, and I can move forward with the love of God. And they were like, you can't do that, man. You can't do that. Yeah. And that's what you're experiencing. I'm experiencing. And I think one of the things that I kind of wanted to talk about, if we could, is how in the heck do we engage with our former, what we came out of? How do we find a way to connect? Because a lot of times I don't even want to bother with it anymore. I'm done. That's one of the things that I'm kind of curious about. What the heck are we supposed to do with those people,
Okay, so I do have thoughts on that, and that's a very good question. I think somebody said, well, how do I know? Because I think you can be in a religion. I think you can be in, I know your podcast, Dogmatically Imperfect, right? I think you can be in it and also connected to the love. I think you can be in it, truly connected with the love and wrestling with the packaging and the context, which I think, as I hear about it, that I was changed by whatever this God is that I read about at my friend's Sunday Bible vacation Bible school, that Jesus fed the people and Jesus helped the little boy and Jesus healed the. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is love. And then it's like, after I got saved, they're like, okay, here's the fine print. Here's what you need to know. Here's what's happening to all the Muslims and stuff. And this is 1988, 89, 90. So Saddam Hussein, we're blowing up people. You get it. I mean, it's always like, oh yeah, okay, I totally. That's Babylon revisited and Nebuchadnezzar. And they just laid it all out for me with scripture to prove each point. And I bought it down to the core. Where I always tell people, and really I'm having the opposite experience now. This is so beautiful. So before I said the sinner's prayer, I had friends, I had teachers, I had cousins, I had neighbors. I said that sinner's prayer, and I no longer had friends, teachers, cousins, and neighbors. I had objects of evangelism. How was I going to play mental chess to witness to them, to show them in such a way that if I don't carry the message right as the right vessel, their blood could be on my hands? Now, I'm 15, and I had Jewish friends, and they became objects of evangelism. I had Catholic friends. Back at that time, I was taught Pope John Paul was the Antichrist. John Paul II was the Antichrist. The 10 horns of Daniel. Yeah, I mean, and I'm not talking about a pastor just said it flippantly. I mean, he took me through Ezekiel. He took me through Daniel. He showed me, and the Pope had a Jewish ancestor. And I mean, he laid it all out for me. And I said, okay. So I had a gay professor, a gay high school teacher. And I loved this man. This man was awesome. He was brilliant. He was smart, blah, blah, blah. And I think I was prejudiced against gay people back in the mid-'80s like I was, but it was culturally prejudiced. A lot of ignorance going on there. But just like everything else, well, people say what they want, but this guy is pretty cool. And then I got saved, and immediately I mean, of all the Jewish friends and Catholic friends, and I had Muslim friends, good friends. I mean, you start ranking them. Who's on the Hell Express first? And
Right,
it
right.
changed the fabric of who I was. But I now find myself loving this person, caring about this person. I had a friend die of a heroin overdose, and the only thing I could think of was not what his parents must feel, his friends must feel. All I can think of is, oh, if he could tell us now, he would tell us get born again because he's screaming in hell. I couldn't even experience loss and sorrow. So here's to your point. So that was me, a normal person coming
Right.
into love, being told the context of that love puts me at war against myself. I'm a teenage guy. I got hormones and I'm masturbating and I got all this stuff going on. They put me immediately at war with myself. Those lustful thoughts, you're going to hell.
Right.
Immediately at war. Don't just be friends and laugh at the jokes. You're going to be going to parties. They're going to hell. But now when you come out of that, I spent the next 30 years in people who their bond was we're on the right team, everybody else. And now that I come out of
Right.
that, how do I feel like I have friends, and now I don't. There's a lot of people that used to be my friends, but now they're only friendly to me because they're trying to win me back, and he's really going through a deception. And people say all the time, I don't know who hurt you, but you should not have turned your back on God because they hurt you. And I'm like, no, that's not what's happening at all. I'm finally admitting to myself
Right.
that this cannot be right, that there's a cruelty to this private salvation idea that I can no
Yes.
longer abide. So here's the thing. Somebody say, well, if I'm in a church and I love my church, and sometimes people don't want to leave Christianity because it's familiar. It's like a coat from the cold, or sometimes they're afraid, or sometimes. But here's what you know. Going back to Carlton Pearson, he said one day, everybody's saved and they just don't know it. And I would
Right.
always lay out the things of salvation, the 5 different ways. I have 7 ways that I teach it now, but there were 5 different possibilities of salvation in the scripture. And that top one was universalism, which Carlton Pearson preached, inclusion. And I used to always say, now look, I like that. I wish that were true. Oh God, if I die and find out that was the case, I'll be the happiest person in the world. Everybody's already saved. They just don't know it. Everybody's going to heaven. I'll be the happiest person in the world. And I always used to say, and I mean, I'm on tape saying this for 15 years. I just
Mhm.
can't do that because of all the scriptures that say you have to opt in. That's how you know if you've been consumed by the false gospel or if the love part of you is still alive. And what I mean by that is if you say, look, the Bible
I
says that if
wish
they
it was
don't
true.
believe,
Yeah.
yeah, but if you wish it was true, in your heart, could you say to yourself, God, I hope that's right. God, I wish that could be the way.
Mhm.
The moment you open your mind to say, well, I sure do wish it was everybody. God, I don't know if you can do anything, but I don't even know if I can pray this, but I pray, is there a way I could pray this, everybody? The sooner you open that to your heart, that moment, all of a sudden you realize, wait a minute, there's no way my heart towards people could be greater than God's heart towards
That's
people.
exactly it.
And once
That's
you admit,
exactly it.
once you say, well, wait a minute, if I can think bigger, you mean God can't think bigger? Man, that thing opens you up and you're on the road to true religion. You're on the road to knowing Christ for real right at that moment.
That's exactly right. One of the things that has been a challenge, I'll just put it as a challenge, is in talking with my mom, and because she's got, of course, we all come up with this thing that, hey, look, if you're not doing it right, man, you're out and you're going to
Yeah.
hell. So I know on some level her training is telling her that I'm going to hell.
Yeah.
But when she looks at me, she sees me. That's my son. I love my son. I don't want him to go to hell. And the idea that I am somehow trying to get across is, Mom, you don't love me more than God does.
Right.
You don't have more compassion, more any of that stuff than God does. You can't possibly love me more than God does. And you see all my, well, yeah, he went through that, and yeah, he went through that, and yeah, he went, and he's my son, and da da da. And yeah, he doesn't mean that. Well, if you can do that, how
How
much
much more?
more
How much more?
does God look at not just me, every single individual? Because we all have stories, we all have things we went through. Um, some would look at what we've gone through and say, "Man, I could never do that," and I hope you never have to. But when I look at other people and what they're going through, to them, it's just as big.
Yeah.
It's their life.
Yeah.
Their issue is the biggest issue in their life. And we react to our biggest issue in the same manner. It's just some have, they're just different issues. That's all.
It's so good.
And
It's so
they're,
good.
but your issue is valid. Whoever's
Yeah.
watching, your issue is valid. And it's not less stressful or less hard to go through than mine or somebody else's. It's there, and what we want to do here is we want to recognize that, and we want to find a way to ease whatever it is that you're going through, not because we're trying to get you on the right team or whatever. And that's what the church is missing. That's what the church is missing. And it's not the church, it's the religious institutions, which
Yeah.
happens to be the church.
Right.
But that's, and I love the way that we do these things now. I love the way that we're pushing past that, striving to find ways to express the love without the conditions. Um, man, for unconditional, our Christian community is so attached to those conditions they say they don't have none of.
Yeah.
How do we? I guess I'm coming back to that question. How do we get them to remove those conditions for the unconditional? I don't know how to do that.
I was just talking to somebody about this, and I think, and people are in the chat and people are watching, and this is something, and again, I hope we're able to salvage some of this because it's so good. But I think people are ready for it. So one of the things that happens is I cover my belief. So I come out of a faith church. My spiritual parents I love tremendously. They're the greatest people I've ever met in my life, and they are vested with me, fully vested. I don't want to cause problems for them preaching what I'm preaching. God knows they've been so good to me. But at 16, 17 years old, they took me into their heart and took me into their home. And even though they may say, and they've not said this, but I wouldn't blame them if they did. Mike, we love you, but we can't have you around here anymore, man. You're tearing everything up, and I don't mean to. I don't want to tear up anything, but I think they may just be like, Mike, we love you, but you got to know, and I do know, man. I can't be saying this in people's pulpits, but they're vested with me, which is this: there's never another thing they have to do for me. Never another thing they have to do for me. They are not just as good as the last thing they've done for me. And I honestly think on some level, I'm not just as good as the last good thing I've done for them. I think there's a bond that transcends. But coming out of that faith space, there's a lot of places in my family and around town. They say, "Oh, are you a Christian?" I say, "Yeah." And they say, "What church do you go to?" And I say, "Well, when I tell this person that, they're going to start laying in on me. Oh man, I've heard that."
Right.
And but sometimes you're surprised. You say, I'll go over here. Oh my gosh, I like that. I watch those people on television. They're great. So, but Connie and I, since we've been doing Nothing Else Matters, since we started the Church of, uh, uh, we just try to be us. And when people say, so what is it that you do? Well, Connie tutors, and I do pastoral counseling, or, I do counseling and things. And we're always ashamed that if they knew the real us, if they knew what we really believed. And so we just try to let people meet us love first. We try to greet the world with non-agenda love first, and it impacts people on a tremendous level. Well, we had a situation with one of the kids. Well, Connie and I were very involved in the kids' school and very involved with all the families. And man, we loved these kids, these high schoolers, and they loved us, and we loved their families, and on and on. Parents would come up, "What is it about you two? You just have such a way. And my gosh, can I get coffee? I'm just drawn to you some way." And of course, we're not saying, "Well, we're pastors." We just, "Oh, that's so sweet. I'd love to get coffee with you." And all the kids run up, the LGBTQ kids run up, the I feel like a Ferris Bueller. They all think he's a righteous dude. Every kid that you could think of, and it was just love. And there was the people would say, "Hey, would you do this for my child? Would you write a letter to my child? Would you do a job recommendation for my child? Would you do a college recommendation for my child? Would you do a video for my child?" On and on and on. Well, we went through graduation, and me and my idiot mouth, where my son's graduating, we're leaving the school, and I said, "Hey, we used to pastor. That was our little community. We don't pastor anymore in that sense, but we've made a community here. Thanks for letting us be part of the community." And me and my stupid self, people started Googling. Within a couple of days, from one of my children's friends who we've been friends with for years, had dinner with them, bread, blah, 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 blah. "I need to talk to you. I went to your website." Uh-oh. What does that mean? I know you don't want to bait. I just have a few questions. I thought, oh, questions. Let's talk about it. It wasn't questions at all.
Yeah.
It was, my family is fleeing from you. I want nothing to do with you. You have hurt my Jesus. You are preaching something that is hurting him, and I just not going to let you stand there and do it. And I mean, it was thank you very much, goodbye. I mean, it was as shameful. And so because of this, I don't bring up what I believe to anyone. But I was at a dinner. One of the guys from school, a friend of my son's parents, he said, "Hey man, I'd love to get together with you." I thought, "Are you serious?" He said, "Yeah." We went out, and I thought, well, this was right after the whole "don't come around my kids," and I thought, this guy's going to come and confront me on. He's read my website and my beliefs, and he found out that I think Muslims are going to heaven and that gay people are too, and he's upset about it. And I said, "Look, let me just get out of the air because this woman said she's going to tell everybody, that we're bad news." She said, "I'm telling you first before I tell anybody else." I thought, well, there went 5 years of love and building a community just snatched from us. And this guy said, he said, "I don't know anything about your website." He said, "But I do have a thing." He said, "I know there's something different about you." And he said, "Man, I just can't do my faith anymore." He said, "I just don't believe it." He said, I don't believe the stuff they're preaching. I don't believe that all these people are going to hell." He said, "I raised my kids in it, and I left church 6 months ago. My daughter said, 'Why do you look mad?' And he said, 'The only reason I look mad is I just can't stand this stuff anymore. And I feel like, am I being a failure for not believing it?' And my point is, where I have my guard up to not talk to anybody in there because I don't want to start problems, there are people in there that are wrestling to say, is it okay that my humanity is pushing through my religion?" And so I think it starts with me not having my guard up. Like, I know you're going to blast me, so I got my guard up because I do get blasted. But I think there's many more people that just say, "No, I'm tracking with you. And I want to hear what you have to say because I'm the same human being that you are." And maybe that adjusts my approach to it. And maybe I just should be more open, that I say some things and maybe put a little feeler out there, and maybe they don't, maybe I don't get the shameful blowback. Is it one good out of 5 bad? I don't know. But I feel like the only other option is that I retreat and withdraw and not show who I truly am. And now I'm back outside. I'm out of weaponized religion, living under the bondage of it. So somewhere in
Right.
between there, it seems like maybe there's an answer.
I think I was thinking about this. I don't remember when, but um, one of the things that uh, I don't know. So I'm thinking specifically about Kanye,
Yeah.
and he whatever he puts out there as his persona, uh, I think that goes well beyond who he really is. I
Mm-hmm.
think he's done the opposite. Like you and I pull back. I don't want to. I don't want to. I don't want to fight. You know what I mean. I don't want to argue with you. I don't want. I don't want to be mad anymore. You know. So we just hold back and we just interact with people in love. But I think Kanye goes so far beyond. He's like, I want you mad at me for all the wrong reasons. So then when you find out the real me, you'll be, oh, okay, well that's all right.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if that's true or not, but it seems if it is true, maybe there's a lesson in that.
Yeah.
And he's so comfortable being hated, I
Yeah.
suppose, by
Yeah.
he's trying to offend every single group. He's not trying to offend one group. He's trying to offend every single group,
Yeah.
and he's good at it.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know what that does for him, but how that allows him to move forward. I don't know if there's a lesson in there or not, but I just find it interesting that
Yeah.
you and
It
I are
really
like guarded and
It really is. I feel like I don't want to live dull. I don't. I spent 35 years in weaponized religion, 30 years in weaponized religion, not even able to fully smell the flowers or see the skies. I never able to watch news, never able to interact, never able to wave to my neighbor, never able to. And I don't want to do that anymore. And here's what helped me, and this may be a little bit of that Kanye. And I know we're talking about the idea of that, and at least the public persona, not knowing the
right, right.
person. But here's what helped me. So I have neighbors as I look around here of all sorts of different faiths, and we're going to move to Q&A here in a minute. So if you have questions, start putting them in the chat, and we'll get to them. And we're going to wrap up here in a few minutes. We're on a little bit longer because of the tech difficulties. But if I was cooking a cheeseburger on my grill, and my neighbor looked over the fence and said, "Hey man, how you doing?" I said, "Oh, I'm doing great." He says, "Oh, you cooking? You grilling?" I'll say, "Oh yeah, grilling." And he said, "What you got?" I said, "Man, I got some burgers with some Tillamook cheddar cheese." And he said to me, my Jewish neighbor, if he said, "Wait, you put cheese on your burger? Don't you know what the God's word commands about not doing that?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, yeah, no, okay, sorry. yeah, don't you know that the commandments are perfect and the law of the, yeah, no, yeah, no, I don't really, that doesn't, I respect the way that you believe that, but I don't, that I'm not, I get that. What I mean, but you don't believe God's word. I do. You have a Bible. I do, but I don't, here's the thing. If he said to me, well, your daughter babysits my children, I don't want her babysitting my children anymore. I realized that I walked on such eggshells for who wouldn't want me around anymore. I think I finally realized I, I'm not the one with the strange religious beliefs. I'm not the one who goes through saying, when the nightclub gets shot up and saying, well, I know those LGBTQ people died, but nobody's talking about after they were shot, they went right to hell because they weren't. I'm not believing that. I don't say that. I don't say, well, the bomb went off and killed 43 people, but they were Muslims, so they're going. I'm not. I'm not the one with the crazy belief. I'm not the one. And somebody said, well, I've had an experience and God showed me something in Israel, or God showed me something on a mountaintop and told me people were dying. I don't care what experience you have. You have to hold up whatever mystical experience you have to this. Did it bring you more in touch and enlarged view of the world, or did it shrink your view of the world? That's the only litmus that we have. When we track the mystical experiences in the Christian scriptures, even in the Hebrew scriptures, the idea of the law. And then they came out and said, well, I think that God is not really interested in you cutting up any animals. I think he wants you to be nice to people. It got larger. Peter was like, well, I know they said this, but I think God showed me that the Gentiles are included. Paul said, well, I think the nations have it's when you have a true experience with God, the world afterwards is
Right.
bigger than it was, not
Yeah.
smaller than it was. And so on one hand, I feel like I'm just shrinking myself, but on the other hand, I lived in tiptoeing on eggshells my whole life. And if you don't want me around, if you've already said you're not, we just got invited last week, and I know I'm rambling. We just got invited last week to a marriage conference. Connie and I have not been invited to a marriage conference, and I can't tell you how long. Since we've been heretics. We were so blown away that somebody invited us to a marriage conference. I said, Connie, tell them we'll go. And they said, we want to be a blessing. I said, oh my gosh, I couldn't believe anybody wanted to talk to us. Man, we were so excited. On Monday, we got a thing. Hey, sorry about that. We looked on your website. You can't come. And I was like, golly. And you know what? People inside there are not going to want me. So if people are not going to want me inside there, why am I living so that I don't offend or ruffle people inside
Right.
there?
Right.
And that
Right. Right.
maybe it's me getting free, not getting arrogant, not trying to destroy, but I'm not going to apologize. I'm not going to feel weird if you have the belief that people that don't think your religion is true are going to hell. I'm not the one with the hang up here. You're the one that's in a world that's too small. And so
I
maybe it's a little bit humility, and maybe it's a little bit, as Kanye says, DEFCON 4. I mean, I don't know.
I think
And by the way,
we have to learn how.
my Jewish neighbor would never say that to me. He calls me his brother. He loves my
Right.
kids. He treats them like this. Why am I the one that's always? Why are the Christians always weaponized? I think every other religion gets it, but us. But I think there's fundamentalists in every religion, and I think outside that there are people that are getting the love and denying the packaging. That's all I'm saying. Stick with the love. Shed the packaging. Sorry, go ahead.
No, 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 you're right. And I think, we were talking earlier about we have that peace that passes their understanding. And I think we have to learn how to live inside that and explore that peace, explore that liberty, explore that. We have it now, but we're still just, let me walk the line so I don't, whatever, because I don't want to have conflict or whatever it is. But um, I think if we can just learn how to explore that liberty and that peace and just be free in that, maybe that's part of the answer too. I'm not sure.
I don't know. Well, I thank you for making the journey with me. You and I you've been a blessing to me, an encouragement to me. Our journey goes way back. We met before your daughter's injury. We met through the power of technology and television, internet, and of course your family we have known and loved, and we still love them all very much. And then somehow, some way, we ended up in these Nothing Else Matters 5 years ago, and on this journey. And you have just been a fellow traveler, and I have wept for you. I have laughed to tears with the things that you've sent me and the encouragement, and I have prayed for you, and I know you have loved me. And uh, I used to say, well, in case my doctrine is wrong, let me always err on the side of love. And now I say, no, because it is certain my doctrine is wrong.
Right.
I'm going to
Right.
walk. It's not a question of in case I'm wrong somewhere. That, I think, wherever Paul or whoever wrote that was saying is like, look, we got faith, we got hope. But the only thing we're sure we're going to know tomorrow is love. And I'm just skipping to
Right.
that right now. If the only thing we're sure we're going to know tomorrow is love, I'm seating myself in that right now. So, Justin, thank you. I don't know if anybody has questions in the chat. We'll take it. I see we'll try to get, we're going to wrap up here. And I know we went a little long, but it was because of the tech stuff. People just thank you for your encouragement. I see so many of you writing. And while we're waiting to see, I'll just give it a minute or two if any question comes in. But and to our Instagram and Facebook audience, I have no idea what happened there. We were going live. We were on. I was watching all three of them. We were set. Then the world shut down. But let me say this: all of Justin's information is in the description. You can find out how to find out his podcast. You can find out how to get a hold of him, and just your love and your prayer, and just he's a man of great faith and a man of great sorrow. He's a man of great joy as well, and it is peace. And there is a shame. I think the faith people, that faith camp gave us a very close view of God, and God is just good. And then also sometimes we can turn that into such a condemning weapon that we're just never going to do it right. And to be on the other side and to just be human, to feel our humanity, to suffer with those that suffer. And you ever been lifting furniture, and you're picking up the pool table, and you're carrying more weight than someone else. One thing I knew with Justin is there's a big ball of suffering in this world, and everybody has their little part of that ball. Some people carry it more than others. And I know that I met this man and I realized, my God, there's a ball of suffering, and you're carrying more weight than I am of that ball, and I want to love and lower my shoulder and help you shoulder that load. And guess what else I know about Justin? He looks at his own ball of suffering and says, but there's people out there carrying much more. This type of heart is so close to Christ. It's so much better than, did you sign up? Did you initial the paperwork? And are you rapture ready? Love of God, loving people, suffering together, sharing joy in the middle of this fragile, complex world. That's far more true religion, than you could ever imagine. So let's see. Never want to go back. I don't know if we have any questions. Justin, a final thought before we go, and just thank you to all of this. Praise Mithras. I know that's right. I know that's right. Somebody said the other day, with the help of Odin, I'm going to make it through. I said, amen to that. Inshallah. Yeah, I'm all good. Listen, like you said, when it's not heaven or hell hanging in the balance, you don't have to be accurate. You can just say, I know in part. Here's what I think I know, because we're all feeling after it. It's only when you're making the stakes impossibly high and privatizing it that it even matters. Justin, just take the last minute, and thank you just so much for being part of this. I'll give you this last word.
I appreciate this opportunity, just to connect with you, and to be able to do it in this kind of a setting is really a great privilege. You heavily influenced a lot of the stuff on my podcast. It's kind of that's why it's called Dogmatically Imperfect. It goes back to what you were saying, is because I'm certain that I'm wrong, then I'm just going to err on the side of love. And so Dogmatically Imperfect is what that's about. My dogma is not perfect, and neither is yours, and neither is the one we came out of. And that's what I try to focus on in that. Getting ready to start it back up again. I've gone through just a ton of changes in the last year and a half, 2 years, whatever it's been. There's so much that we've not even touched.
I know. I feel like we could do 100 of these. Yeah.
But that's not really the point. I think that it is what it was supposed to be, because the people that are going to hear it are going to get what they need out of it. And I just really appreciate you more than I can express. And I'm excited about the future. And that's the thing that, in the midst of all these challenges that we're going through, if we can maintain that hope, if we can maintain that anticipation, and something good's about to happen, I think that's the core of what love does for us. It inspires us to look for the good in the midst of all the bad things. And that's just what would want to encourage anybody who's watching to continue to do it. And I think that's why they connect with you specifically. And if they connect with me, that's cool too. But I love being a part of the church of, and just I don't really know what else to say except thank you,
I got you. I
and
feel
I
it.
love you guys.
We love you. We love you. I'm gonna see here. So I got a. Let me see if this is. So let me see if I can do this here and find it. Yeah, there's a thing there. Somebody said, "Oh man, I lost Justin." uh, there we go. Let's try that. There, he's back. He's back. I didn't even got you. I got your whole camera messed up now. Anyway, that's
That's
all
all
right.
right.
We'll wrap it up. But man, let's see here. Anyway, yeah, here it is. Is it just Christians that give pushback to the broader view of God? I think anybody on any level can be weaponized. You can be weaponized politically. You can be weaponized uh, racially. You can be weaponized, um, you know, tribally. And I think that there, in every religion, there are people that say, this is the structure through which I've been given it, but I understand it on the broad level. And then I think in every religion, there are people that say, I buy into the structure more than the love at the core. Um, I will tell you this, that as you travel around, you're going to meet people who don't fit your mold, don't fit your expectation, don't fit your doctrine, don't even call God or know God or whatever by the name, anything else. But you're going to meet them on an equal place of humanity and love and dignity. And you'll say, surely God is in this place too. And I think that is the truth of religion, that we discover that it's not just us for and ours, us for no more. That what you do when you get out there, I think on some level, whatever you believe about Jesus, you don't have to believe Jesus is Lord. You don't have to confess him as Lord. You don't have to do any of that kind of stuff. I don't believe in any of that stuff. It's all private. It's all unjust. But whatever you think about him on some level, if there's any truth to it, of God becoming human, if there's any truth to that story, the truth should be when God came close, we found God was not as awful as we were taught. And when God is close, he's not anywhere near as cruel to humanity as we were led to believe. And I think that's true for us too, that when we get close, we find that the people were not nearly as awful as we were taught. When we get close to other people, we find out that God is right there in their group, just as I was taught God is my group. And that makes the world bigger instead of smaller. That's a larger us. Instead of a little tiny us against the world, it's a big us who's all. I mean, these are the deep thoughts of what Justin and I are trying to get you to. And don't be afraid to make that first step. Don't be afraid to take that first step. What is the first step? Just saying yourself, there's no way I love my children more than God loves the people of the world. I told my kids this, and we really are ending. I told my kids this, and just hang on, just give me 60 seconds. There was a video, a news story, Justin. I'm sure you heard of it, about this kid, teenage boy. Some girl hit him up on Instagram. There's 100 of these stories. Girl hit him up on Instagram or Snapchat or whatever. Started flirting, saw your profile, sent her him a naked picture. Said, send me one back. He does. She says, no, do it like this, do it like this. She does. And then after the fourth or fifth picture, he comes on and says, now I want $300, or I'm sending this to everybody on your list. And this kid ended up taking his life. Gave 300. They said, we want another 300. Shaved 300. And they said, that's it. We're sending it to everybody. And they found people and they've arrested him and blah, blah, blah. And I read that and I brought my kids in. I said, listen, I want you both to know there is nothing you will ever do, nothing that you think is shameful or sick or gross or sexual. I said, sex is just messy. It's fun. It's crazy. And sometimes it's the wildest thing you can ever imagine, but you're never going to do anything. And somebody says, oh, I'm going to put that out in public and you should feel awful. Feel awful about being a sexual being? No way. You should never feel awful about that. Is it private? Is it a little embarrassing? Yeah. But people, that's their hang up, and I said, you may do something one day that there are laws. You may steal something, break something, do something, whatever. And there may be laws in the land that say, well, you're going to have to go to court, and I'm going to sit right by you in court. But there's nothing. You say, Dad, I did this. There's nothing you can't bring to me and say to me, here's what happened, and I feel terrible about it. I'm never going to shame you. I'm going to say, oh, man, you got to be smart about that, but how can I help you get out of it? Or, oh, it's all right. Don't worry about that, sweetheart. That, and my kids were talking and doing their phones. I said, stop. Listen to what I'm saying. I'm telling you, there is nothing you could ever do that will make me stop loving you, stop being on your side, and stop being here for you. And I don't care if we got to walk all the way to court, all the way to sentence, and I got to come see you in jail for the rest of your life. There is nothing that you will ever do, and if I can protect you from it, I will. And if I can't protect you from it, I'll go through it with you. And I said, do you hear me? They said, yes. I said, look at me in the face, Michael. Look at me in the face, Olivia. Why you get so radical? Because I want you to understand how deep my love is for you. And man, I started thinking about that, Justin, and I thought, isn't that what we are supposed to have taken away from Christ? That God stood in the middle of the world and he said to the whole world, there is nothing that you could ever do to make me stop loving you. There is no amount of shame, no amount of embarrassment, nothing you're into, no one's side you're on. And I want you to hear me. I want you to hear God saying, there is nothing that would ever happen that I won't be with you, stay with you, walk with you, get you out of. And I'm a human dad that has limits on what he can rescue his children from. But God says there's no limits. And how we have not heard that, or how something false got in the way of that. So if I'm radical about anything, I am radical of standing in the world and saying to the world, the only thing I know to say is a father. And if I'm an evil person and I understand that type of love, don't come sell me that God doesn't get that. You can save all your scriptures and all your you have a fear that I no longer possess, and you have a false form of love that I no longer abide in. And I know you don't understand that where I'm at now. But if you ever admit the truth in yourself, there's no way God could be this petty. You're going to step into it. And you're not going to lose all the connection to love. You're just going to lose the packaging that it was put in.
I want to, if I can, I want to just attach on to what you said right now, because I think that's exactly what Christ did. When people say, well, if Jesus, because I have this thing, Jesus didn't die on the cross for your sins. Well, if not, then why? Why did Jesus die on the cross if it wasn't to save you from da 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 da? It's because he took every bad thing. He said, turn the other cheek, right? He turned the ultimate cheek.
Yeah.
No matter what they did to Jesus, he still didn't condemn them. He's on the cross, about to die. He says, forgive them. They don't even know what they did.
They don't even know.
They thought that they were doing this for this reason, but they don't even understand. And I don't care if you kill me on a cross, I still forgive you. And that's the point. That's the point.
Period. And we think what? Well, they didn't believe in me the technical right way, so nothing I can do to help you.
No, it didn't matter.
We either have a God that's cruel or we have a God that's incompetent. Because he doesn't want anybody to go to hell. He just can't figure out a way to solve it. Or, look, maybe burning some up people gives them a part. I cannot abide it. I cannot abide it anymore. I cannot abide it anymore.
I mean, the people that put him there, they didn't believe in him, right? They didn't confess. They didn't repent after. The only one that repented was Judas, and we think he went to hell. They didn't do any of the things that we say that you have to do to qualify to receive the forgiveness of God. And he forgave them all without any of those. They slept like a baby after they killed him, and he forgave them anyway. And I think that's what we have to recover. We have to recover that part of the love of the story, instead of all the other qualifications that come with it. Because the way that you love your children, there's nothing that they can do. God loves us even more than that.
I agree. I love you. And I thank you. I just thank God for you. I see everybody, Karen, Ty, JP, Mike. I just see you all, Chris. I just, World Mind. World Mind is like, I don't know if it's a troll or whatever, just spaghetti monster stuff going. Connie, who's Connie Smith? You need to send me some DM messages or whatever. Slide in my DMs anyway. Hey, Dan, love you all. Mike, Grubbs. Hey, Derek Moore, Brett, and Deborah. Just good to see you all. Thank you all for being on. And I see my boy on there, and it's just good. Hey, everybody. We just love you all. Thank you for just your patience, and we're going to get this together. But God bless you. Hey,
Pastor Mike, thank you so much.
Thank you. This is episode 2. We're going to do this. We've got 5 new things we're launching. We're going to do season 1, 6 or 7 episodes of this. Then we'll go to season 1 of a marriage podcast. We're going to be talking about some very intimate things. Season 1 of a parenting thing that we're going to be doing with the kids. And Then we've got just some other very exciting things, but I'll save all that. God bless you. We love you. You can find all the information and get a hold of Justin in the comments, of course. You can find out about us in our church. You can find out michaelandconnie.com, the church of every Sunday here on all the website. You can find out all the information. We have service every Sunday at 10:30. All right, that's it. God bless you. Justin, we'll talk soon. Love you so much. Love you so much.
Love you.
Bye-bye.
See you.